Record. I also have a program called Ignite Unlimited, which is a 12-week lead generation program. And it's all about how to get more leads for your business, because I think that's the one thing that small businesses suffer with. I'm not going to bore you talking all about that program. I'm going to send you the details after today's call and you can have a look. And if that's something you're interested in, you can get in touch. So today we're talking about building your visibility. And I think it's quite good to reflect back on where you started your visibility journey, because there is a trajectory that businesses follow for this. So it tends to be that you think of your business idea and then you start with your business name. You might then think about your branding and your logo, and then you go off and get a website, and then you might go networking and do some social media and possibly some paid ads. So in the chat box, tell me where you think you started your visibility journey, because some people I talk to start with social media and they don't start with a website. Some people didn't get any branding advice and kind of have regretted that later on. So in the chat, just share what you did in the very early days of your business, if you can think that far back. Some of you may be quite new to business. Some of you may be in business a long, long time. So it's interesting to know, from my perspective, where you started your visibility journey. Oh, wow. Front page of the Daily Mail. That's amazing. Gosh. Branding, social media. Yeah, lead magnets, name, logo. Yeah, networking. A lot of you from networking. Yeah, door leaflets, Ross. Oh my God, I so remember all of that stuff. Yeah, networking. Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. So you kind of do all of these things, and then it's like, okay, what next? So some businesses, I'm going to be honest, survive quite nicely with doing these things. They have a website which is optimized for SEO. Note we have an SEO expert in the room, Michael. And they'll do some networking, which gives them leads, and they might run some paid ads. That could be Google, that could be Facebook, it could be one of the other platforms. And they will survive quite nicely with the amount of work that they want. However, as I said at the beginning of today's session, I mean, I've certainly seen it because I've had my business so long that social media didn't even exist when I started my business, that we are all in quite a crowded space. We all have to be seen and heard above the noise. And so how do we do that? And what are the things that we can do to increase our visibility? So I'm going to talk to you about some of the ideas. Now, you'll know some of these things, but I think sometimes having them in a list and starting to formulate a plan is honestly the best way forward with this. Because if you just kind of bimble along and think, oh, yeah, I'll do that. Oh, well, maybe I know I should be doing that, but I haven't done it. You know, structure and planning is what makes a successful business. And I cannot stress that enough. And if you start to think about the ideas that are realistic for you and the things that you have the time to do, and maybe further down the line you have the funds to do, then I think talking through some of these things is going to be really useful for you. So, I mean, I'm just going to talk about video, and I'm going to put my hands up and say, I hate myself on video. And anyone who knows me will know that videos and photos are something I really, really hate. But I'm happy to do lives where I'm talking to other people. And I've done loads of things over the years where I've got experts or other people in my industry or outside of my industry onto lives to talk to on LinkedIn and Facebook. And this does increase your visibility because you're exposing yourself to their audience. And this is the key with all of these things, you know, thinking about strategically how you can kind of almost borrow other people's audiences, really. Think about doing these lives because actually it's not difficult to do. And I've had to get over myself and do it. I'm not very good at talking into camera, just talking about what I do. But I'm good at chatting and interviewing people. So think about that and think about people that align with your business and that can provide you exposure to their audiences. we're going to talk about podcasts a bit later, so we'll come back down to that in a minute. Awards, I can honestly say to you, the very first year I won a business award, which was back in 2012, my turnover and profit went up by 30%, and that was not a coincidence. That was the exposure that I got, and in those days in the local newspaper, because that was still very prevalent, although social media had started then. So it enabled me to get new clients. People after the award ceremony came up to me and said, oh, I'd like to talk about working with you. And if I'm honest, awards is still part of my strategy today. I've won 2 awards this year at the Great British Business Awards, and I'm up for 2 awards at the SME National Awards in December. So I do think awards should be part of everybody's strategy, no matter how small you are. Doesn't matter. There is an award out there for you. There are award programs that will help elevate you as an expert in your industry. If you really don't want to enter awards, you could look at judging, you could look at sponsoring, or going along to an award ceremony with somebody you know and cheering them on will start to make you realize the impact and the power behind it. If you have won an award and you've got something out of it, please put this in the chat. Tell people what awards that you have won. Are you thinking of entering awards? Put it in the chat. I want to hear what you're thinking about doing. Collaboration. So collaboration for me has been an absolute game changer. It's something that I've done throughout my business life. Going back 20 years ago, I can remember doing events and collaborating with people on that. It has made such a difference to me. And I contributed a chapter to a book last year called Fab Collab. And if you haven't got the book, go and get it. It's on Amazon. And 15 of us collaborated together to write chapters about collaboration and our experience of collaboration. Again, if you are looking for collaboration, so you want to get people to interview on your lives, put it in the chat today. Just put a call out and say, because it might not be the people that are here today on this call, but they may know people. I put a call out for people to come onto my podcast recently on LinkedIn, and I've ended up with 10 people that I've interviewed that I've never met before because other people tagged them in the post. So think about who you want to collaborate with and put it in the chat. Use the chat today and really put those call outs for what sort of people that you're looking to collaborate with. Again, you can do events with somebody, you can do offers, you could write blogs for somebody's website, you could do lives. There's loads of opportunities out there. We just need to work together on them. The next thing on my list is writing. You can write blogs for your own website, but also guest blog for other people's websites. You can submit articles. I mean, there are so many publications out there that want your content. Everything from Medium to Forbes. There's so much stuff out there. And all of these online magazines need your content. Also, you could look at writing a book. I mean, that is a massive task. I've done it. I've done my own book plus contributed to a book. So my book is called The Successful Mumpreneur. Been out for 6 years now, but it's still selling. And frankly, again, it's another way that I've gained a lot of visibility. Or you can create an ebook now quite easily online. It's really not difficult to do that. If you're nervous about the investment of putting a book out there, you might want to start off with an ebook. And you can create those relatively cheaply online and start selling them. You can sell an ebook. There's no reason why you can't. Or you can look at contributing to other people's books. So alongside the Fab Collab book that I contributed, I also contributed to a book called Winner. It's about winning business awards by Denise O'Leary. Again, thoroughly recommend that book. And a lot of the information in that book, including the foreword, was written by me. So the next thing on my list is speaking. Speaking was something I started to do about 20 years ago. It took me way out of my comfort zone. I always remember the first time I stood up to speak and my legs were shaking underneath the lectern. And I had some training, and I'm still not a perfect speaker, but you know what? I'm quite human. And I always remember the piece of advice that I got from my speaker training. And she said, you know what? She said, no one else knows what you're going to say apart from you. So if you miss something out or you don't say something quite as you wanted to say it, it doesn't matter. And that was the best piece of advice I think I ever had. So I do a lot of speaking, speak about awards, I speak about LinkedIn, I speak about marketing. And, you know, there are so many opportunities out there to do this. And, you know, there are literally people who need you. And this could be conferences, it could be exhibitions, it could be networking events. There are tons of opportunities out there, and you've got to go and look for them. And to me, speaking is probably one of the most powerful things that you can do, because if you're standing in front of an audience of even 30 people, 50 people, 200 people, you know, you are getting great visibility and you will get business from it. Absolutely, you will get business from it. So consider a speaking as a real opportunity for you to get more visibility and find those opportunities. The next thing on my list is industry participation. And this is something that when I'm talking to people about their marketing and I talk about this to them, they're like, oh, I hadn't really thought of that. So if you're part of an industry, then find out who the boards or the governing bodies or the groups are within that industry, because there will be those organizations. So if we use marketing as an example, you've got the Chartered Institute of Marketing. So that's my kind of body. So getting involved can really raise your profile, and it can raise your profile within your industry, and you get seen as an industry leader. But also you're going to meet and network with other people who are also in that industry, and that can be super beneficial as well. So think about, are you really involved in your industry? Are you really a leader in your industry? And if you want to be, go and find those bodies and organizations to do that. The next thing on my list is building a community. And that's one of the things that I did very early on in my journey, because I saw that the opportunity to grow my marketing business back in, 2006, was to build my own community. And that has been really the biggest stepping stone for me for the trajectory of my business and the success of it over the years. So that could be that you might run some events, or you might do your own networking groups or your own industry specialized groups, or you might want to set up a conference, or you might want to do even something simple like a group on social media. It doesn't have to be all out organize an event, but I think building your own community around you is so important. Yes, you can be part of communities, but you being seen as a leader of a community will really elevate you and your visibility. And then last on this list is press. And yes, we all love to get in the press. Of course we do. And it's so important, but you need a bit of a strategy with it as well. And you need to be consistent. So the press are quite interested in people who have won awards, who have a book, who have a podcast, who are speaking. So sometimes thinking about those elements are really important, and having something to say. So I do think press is really important. It's not the most important thing, I don't think. But I do think it's definitely one of the most important things. But sometimes you need those other elements in place to get press interest. So if you are doing any of these things already, brilliant. If you've got a podcast, put the link in the chat so we can all see your podcasts. If you've got a blog, if you're looking for people to guest blog on your website, put that request in. If you're looking for speaking gigs, put that request in. Let's see how much visibility that we can create today from this event. So I'm going to talk about podcasting next, and I'm going to get Donna to come on and talk about podcasting. I have my own podcast called the Business Awards Show. I've had that now for about 2.5 years. We're in about 120th episode, and we're in the top 30 marketing podcasts in the UK. So that for me has opened loads of doors, and I've got to speak to some amazing people who have either won awards, or they judge awards, or they write award entries, or they organise awards. But I'm not going to talk too much about setting up a podcast because I'm going to let Donna do that. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Let me stop. Donna, where are you? You're there somewhere.
I'm here somewhere.
There you go. Tell people about podcasting.
Okay, I did throw together a few slides, so let me share those with you. Screen. Okay, so podcasting and visibility. Firstly, thank you for letting me have this little bit of time with the group, Debbie, to share. You know how much I love podcasting. So we're going to be talking today a little bit about how you can use podcasting to grow your visibility. And this is not just by guesting and having your own podcast. So if you're already freaking out, stay tuned. So a little bit about me, because I didn't do my 20 seconds. My name is Donna. I am a podcast host and mentor, also the runner of the online Businesswomen UnLtd meeting, as Debbie said. I've been podcasting since 2020, and I have been teaching it in some fashion or another for the last 2 years. So yes, somebody put it in the chat and somebody said that I do it, but yes, I am your podcast go-to girly. Thank you, Janine, for pointing that out. So the first one, of course, and I think the best option is to start your own podcast. This gives you complete control. You decide what you say, when you say it, how often you're posting. You just got all of the control when it is your own podcast. And having a podcast doesn't mean that you have to do what I do, which is a weekly show. You can do seasonal, so you can batch some episodes, put them out, have a break, batch some more. So you can really fit it into what fits with your work and your desire for your podcast. You do it on your schedule. It helps you to build your audience. So not only are you interacting with your audience and showing them what you can do and showcasing your expertise through your podcast, but by sharing it on social media, you're going to be hitting new people as well. And if you have guests on your show, then you're going to be opening up to their audiences as well, which increases your visibility. You can also create community, which Debbie was talking about earlier. So my podcast is connected to a Facebook group, and I have that interaction there so that we can build community, and it is building your visibility consistently. So even if you have a seasonal show, you're able to share your podcast when your seasons are over. Just reshare the episodes. You can share different sound bites from them and re-energize your audience to go back and listen to episodes that they didn't listen to first time round. And you're also building your audience consistently anyway, so new people won't have heard them. So it's a really good way of building your audience. The next is guesting. So guesting is a really good complement to your own podcast, or if you're not quite ready to start your own, guesting is a great way to dip your toes in the water. It extends your reach beyond your audience. It's lower effort because you haven't got to do all the editing, recording, show notes, and all of that jazz. You turn up, you deliver your expertise, you share a link, and then you share the podcast afterwards. I think this is the biggest mistake a lot of people make when they're guesting, is that they don't use the episodes after they have done it. They go to grab hold of the audience that's the host's audience, but then they don't share it with their own audience, and you are really missing a trick if you don't share the episodes. So I always say that you could do maybe 10 podcasts in a year, and you could be consistently sharing something different from each of them for the entire year and just building that rapport. And you know what? If you do that, you're likely to get the host ask you to come back, especially if you're tagging them every time you share it. And every time you share it and tag them, you're opening it up to their audience. You know, if you put it on LinkedIn and it says so-and-so has just commented on this. So if you tag the host and they come over and go, oh, thanks for sharing, it was lovely to have you on, their audience is seeing it. So it is increasing that visibility over and over again. And then the next one, which might be a surprise to people, sponsor a podcast. So if you haven't thought about doing this, it doesn't have to be a very high cost. It really does depend on what you kind of communicate with the host. It depends on what they're giving you. So if they are a seasonal show, for example, they're going to give you the whole season. That would cost more than sponsoring a couple of episodes, but it's guaranteed exposure, because do you know what? If you do a guest spot and they don't like the way the interview turned out, they don't have to share it. So it's guaranteed exposure because you're paying for it. It is seriously low effort, and you collaborate with the host. So you can come up together with the idea of what that sponsorship is going to look like, how it's going to sound, the words that are used. And every time the podcast it goes live, they're sharing your stuff. And you can trial it for a little bit. You could extend it, and you could sponsor many podcasts depending on how it works for you. But it's really important to have something that you can share with that host that is a link that is going to really show you who's coming from the podcast, so you can manage what that looks like financially. And then share podcasts you listen to. So this is one that I think is like the easiest if you're like, I really don't want to start my own. I don't want to go guesting, haven't got the budget to sponsor. This one is your easy go-to. Share episodes that you listen to and tag the host. Because if you tag the host, especially on something like Instagram, it's likely they're going to reshare it to their stories, which gets you a little bit of visibility. If they have a hashtag for their podcast, then make sure you use that when you're sharing it, because then their audience that clicks on the hashtag is going to see you. Share it on your socials. It's going to bring people into them. It's also going to really show you to that host if you are consistently sort of sharing their podcast. So if you do want to guest on their podcast eventually, that's a great way of showing up and saying, hey, I'm actually a regular listener. And share it in groups. So I know a lot of the times you can't promote in groups, but if you share it into groups, these are other people's podcasts that are going to be of value to the audience, that's going to get those people talking to you. So it's a good way of showing up in groups without promoting yourself. You can share a podcast and say, oh, this really helped me with XYZ, and it's going to get that conversation started in a group. So those are your 4 ways of getting more visibility with podcasts. And the reason you want to use podcasts is for some of these amazing stats. So there are 500 million listeners worldwide to podcasts. It is a growing industry. There are 5 million podcasts out there. Not all of those are active. I think under 500,000 are actually active podcasts. So there's a lot of podcasts that did a season, stopped, did a couple of episodes, stopped, and all of that jazz. They're still included in that 5 million number, but it is growing and it is open to all. So where you think, oh gosh, there are so many YouTube channels, I think like 60 million or something, there are 600 million blogs, I'm never going to be able to stand out. Podcasting is the baby of the bunch, so you can really make an impact in it. One thing to say is that 80% of people who press play on a podcast listen to the entire thing. So if you're guesting on it, if it's your own show, if you've got a sponsorship that goes out at the end, you are going to get heard from it. 79% listen on their phones, and most people who listen to about 8 episodes a week of different podcasts. So there is a lot of room for growth in the industry, but it is already booming. So it's a great way to increase your visibility. And this is what the global market looks like. You can see that we're number 6. So we're still a baby in the market, really, when you compare us to the United States. Podcasting has been around for over 20 years, but it's only really taken off here in the last sort of 4 or 5 years that you've really sort of, the pandemic really kick-started podcasting in the UK, I think. So we are going to be catching up, but there is so much room to grow. So that is it for me, a little whistle-stop tour on how to be a little bit more visible with podcasting.
Amazing. Thank you, Donna. That was incredible. Brilliant. So I'm just going to finish the last bit of this slideshow. So you've got all of this list to work through, and I'm going to send you the slides afterwards. But one of the things I would say to all of you is you have to search for the opportunities. So groups like today, where we can post in what do we want to be known for? What's our expertise? And get out there and search for those opportunities. And ask your network, find out where those events are and do your research. And then you want to create a calendar. Now, you should be doing a content calendar for your marketing and social media. And if you don't, now's the time to start one. And you can then plug in your visibility strategy to that, because it kind of works in tandem. So create your plan of activities that you want to participate in and add these in. And this is part of your lead generation strategy and your content strategy, because by speaking, by being part of videos, podcasts, whatever, that is all going to give you valuable social media content that you can put out. And then make sure you're tracking your results. You know, loads of you that know me know I'm really passionate about looking at analytics and understanding the performance, and is the work that you're doing to raise your visibility actually gaining you more leads, which it will. I'm sure of that. Make sure you stay updated on your industry trends. You know, you can set up Google Alerts, which will send you information about your industry, and that's completely free. And keep in touch with what the new technologies and best practices are. A true thought leader is always learning and evolving. So in the breakout rooms, I want you to share 2 things that you can do in the next 6 months. So I've given you quite a broad time frame here to gain more visibility. You may be doing some of the things that we've talked about already, but if you're not, or you're not doing the whole list and there's other things you can do, I want you to share in the breakout rooms what 2 things that you're going to do to gain more visibility. Now, breakout rooms have little room leaders. So I'm going to call out the names of the room leaders. They don't know they're going to be a room leader. But surprise, surprise, a lot of my group leaders are going to be given this task. So we're going into the breakout rooms, and I want to make sure that the room leaders give everybody around 5 minutes each to speak, so that that's managed properly and everyone gets a chance to share their ideas and get feedback from other people in the group. We'll come back about 20 past-ish. I'm going to put the timer on for 25 minutes. Some groups have got 5 people, some groups have got 4 because we're an uneven number. So room 1, I'm going to ask Gemma if you would manage that room for me. Gemma Janae, if you could manage that room. Room 2 is Zenat, room leader. Room 3, Maggie, of course. Maggie can manage that room, expert. Room 4, Lisa McCallum. Room 5, Talia Zamora. Room 6 is going to be, let me look, Alex Standley. Would you be all right doing that for me? That would be great. Room 7, Kate Porter. Are you okay with doing that? Room 8, Catherine Chapman. And room 9, Debbie Diggle. And room 10, Kate Mercer. Is that okay with everyone? So we've got 10 rooms. We'll come back and we won't be able to go to all 10 rooms because we'll be here all day, but we will get some feedback from some of the rooms about some of the things that was discussed. Okie doke. I'm going to open the rooms now.